and historically, most of the governors have been Democrats. There's been this tension between these two offices, and it has not been constructive. It was to the point, in many cases, I was to set up a meeting, and I insisted that the delegate be in that meeting, and you would have a governor saying, she doesn't need to be there. Excuse me. Even if I do not get along with the delegate or not, it is a responsibility of both these parties to show one face up there. This kind of childishness that may take place in the Virgin Islands with reference to the tension between the governor's office and the delegate is unacceptable. And it is a responsibility of both parties to put these differences aside and move in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. And I will do that. I don't care whether there's a communist as a governor of the Virgin Islands. I will work with that individual, whether they're a Democrat, Republican, or whatever they are.
What we're going to ask for right now from Dr. Richardson would be a follow-up question to candidate Redfield. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There's an African proverb which states, when the elephants battle, the grass suffers.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular proverb is most apropos to the Virgin Islands. Our people are hurting. Our people are in dire straits. Tell me unequivocally, in clear, concise, and simple language so our people can understand, what do you see as the solution?
I think it goes to the role of all of our politicians, whether they're in the Senate or in Congress or as a chief executive. It's not about us individually. It's about the people we serve. And you have to have the political maturity to pick your battles.
Correct.
For instance, this battle over the CFO is a battle that did not need to be taken. The previous governor, as well as this one. And I supported it initially under the Turnbull administration. But it so soils the atmosphere or the climate of getting things done. And the two of them at odds doesn't make any sense. I'm a consensus builder. I worked and served in the legislature for 6 terms. And most of that time, I was dominated by Democrats. I believe in making love, not war. In other words, in my first term, I was a smarty pants. And all I did was look to answer press releases and attack back. And I found out over a period of years, when you do that, you have to clear your table off and get absolutely nothing done. Why you have such despair in this community and a lack of respect for politicians, they're so busy fighting with each other, they forget what their major objective is to fight for the people of the Virgin Islands. The energy issue speaks to that issue. One of our major problems is we can't get a consensus here in the Virgin Islands. We've got to go to liquefied natural gas, and we've got to move on with it. And we've got to be able to develop a consensus. You need people in leadership that are willing to step in the middle and say, excuse me, we've got to get along with each other. Because if you take a look at the pain in this community right now, people are making choices between what? Feeding their families, paying their utility bills, trying to survive. I am the type of leader, and I've been proven to do so, that I can work on both sides of the aisle. When it comes to Republicans, I know just exactly how to handle Republicans because I am one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question from Senator Liebert to candidate Norma Picard Samuel.
Mr. Picard, just to piggyback on the energy issue, because to me, that's the greatest issue we have facing us.
Absolutely.
And I want to ask you to give us some specifics as to how you plan to approach this if elected to Congress.
To bring everybody to the table. I have already done the research, already gathered the companies and the professionals necessary 5 years ago because I saw it coming. And this is our problem. We wait until the crisis is upon us to start acting. 5 years ago. If we're going to go to liquefied natural gas, the delegate is in Congress where all the money is. She could have put a plan together and bring it to the people. You can't say if your people are suffering, that is the governor's job or that's the legislature's job. It is your job to bring solutions to the table. You think that if she put a plan together, have the money and brought it to the table, the people of the Virgin Islands would have said, oh, that's not your job, and let the governor and the legislature get away with it? I submit to you not. You know, I would go back to my plan and the connections. We have so much friends. The delegate has so much friends, and it's not doing us any good. I would go back to my friends and colleagues and tell them, this is how we can go, this is what it's going to cost, and this is where we're going to get the money from. But we have to look at the whole picture, because we have a crisis brewing here that we're not looking at. People don't have electricity in their homes because they can't afford it right now. We have to go and work on other things in the meantime. We have to lower the poverty level. We have to get ourselves out of this international status that we find ourselves in, and get subsidies and whatever we have to get right now, and that will be my focus. Bring in relief immediately while we work on getting our energy crisis taken care of. Because in the meantime, while you're working on that, people are hungry. Homes are without electricity. And that would be my strategy. Bring relief in combination with moving forward with an energy plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Davis, you're up next. If you want to follow up with candidate Picard Samuel, you can. On a follow-up on that particular question, or if anything.
Let me go to Senator Redfield. You know, we are talking about energy and all that needs to be done urgently. But we have not addressed the issue of finances.
Correct.
How we are going to finance the energy dilemma. We have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. We're not a rodent that is borrowing in the ground. We have to come out of that by stop borrowing. So therefore, we must be in a position to raise our finances. You would agree?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about a value-added tax. Would you support that, or what's your opinion on the value-added tax as a mean to assist us financially? Is it a regressive tax? Would it hurt the people? Would it benefit the people? Would it be substantial in raising revenues to do the things that we would like to do, other than going to the bond market constantly?
That's a good question, because what you have to do, and whether anybody likes it or not, the VI Water and Power Authority has entered into what we've called private-public sector partnerships already. They've done that with reference to the generation of water. It was an issue that when I was running with Judge Julio Brady for Lieutenant Governor, that we broached. And again, it was very, very well not accepted in the Virgin Islands. But however, as long as the WAPA maintains its sovereignty over the distribution system, they stay in control. When you're talking about the issue of, again, dealing with this issue of capitalizing it, if you enter into an agreement like that, that capitalization will take place. That's exactly what happens. In other words, in exchange for the capital, what happens is a private sector company gets an exclusive for a period of years. We've got to be very cautious when we do that, maintain our sovereignty. With reference to a value-added tax, I merely have said over a period of years, between the gross receipts tax, which is a regressive tax, it's a tax that basically says to somebody, don't go into business. These are the insular issues that our politicians have got to step up to the plate. And they've got to learn to articulate exactly why they support this. Right now, again, the gross receipts tax is not enforceable. And how in heaven's name do you tax somebody before they made the money? We have gotten so used to this particular tax because when it really gets regressive, as you know, when you have inflation, Inflation is the best thing for government. They get more money with reference to the gross receipts tax. But the question is who pays for it? The consumer pays for it every time they go and buy groceries or anything else. So we need bold decisions. Whoever is in Congress has got to reach back to the Virgin Islands and work with the legislature and the executive branch and be willing to step into these issues
Time.
and put their political careers on the line.
Thank you very much. Next question will be from Dr. Richardson to our delegate.
Once again, good morning.
Morning again.
Again, from the pages of literature, it is clearly stated, neither a borrower nor lender be, for borrowing oft times dull the edge of husbandry, which means your ability to take care of yourself. What do you propose, apart from going to the bond market, apart from hand out, hand in, or hat in hand, gimme, 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 or may I? What do you think would be our best approach from your position as a delegate to Congress for our people here in the Virgin Islands who are really suffering?
Yes, they are, and I'm extremely sensitive to that because I see it and I feel it every day. And unfortunately, I have to take responsibility for increasing our ability to borrow for any public purpose for one of the pieces of legislation that I had passed during the Republican administration, of course. But what I propose, first of all, there's been a lot of talk about, energy, and I just want to go back to that for a second, because what I am working with the administration, the White House and the Department of Energy and Agriculture on is how do we get funding now? There's a high energy cost grant. How do we get some of that money now to begin to relieve the pressure that is on my constituents, our people in the Virgin Islands, with regard to the high cost of LIAC? I propose, as I said before, to have a piece of legislation that I doubt will get passed this year, but we are continuing to try, the Virgin Islands Improvement Act, that will bring over $50 million of money into the territory annually for over a 20-year period. I have another piece of legislation that would lift the cap on rum. I was able to lift it from $10.50 to $13.25 and bring in, as I said, over $15 million a year. If we can lift that cap totally, and even though Puerto Rico and I don't agree on a lot of things, we're working together on this to lift the cap entirely to the $13.50. We have been penalized for over 20 years by the cap that was placed back in the early 1980s, so it's over 30 years, for something that was not our fault. And so once that cap is lifted, it is my intention to go back and get the hundreds of millions of dollars that we have been penalized and that have been withheld from my territory through no fault of my own, of our own.
Thank you. Next question from Mr. Liebert to candidate Norma Picard-Samuel.
I would like to ask her, but can I follow up with the delegate?
Yes.
Delegate, I listened to your comment there, and I want to know what it is that we can expect in the upcoming days. Because, we could talk about it for a long time, but the reality is that we are in crisis as we speak. And so I would like to know, up the road 2 months from now, where are we? Because you speak about $50 million, but $50 million, where is it coming from? Number one, where is it coming from? Is it realistic to say that we're going to get it soon? I remember when we worked on the tax issue, that was realistic. And for the record, I want to say that the delegate did move a legislation that changed the 1936 law that allowed the Virgin Islands government to now do their own tax structure. So anyone says that we have a problem with taxes here, that's the legislature's fault now because they have the authority to do it. All right. So I'm saying, delegate, for the public out there, they want to know, we could be talking about that, but tell us, what's going to happen? How are we going to arrive at that. We have too many issues that are out there floating. Let's be concrete. Let's be precise.
And absolutely, I don't have that legislation passed yet. So there's no way that that $50 million will come in the next couple of months. We were expecting to have the extenders passed before we leave, so the money from the rum, which is at increased production right now, will be coming to the territory soon. But for the immediate, what I am trying to do is address two things in particular. One is the LEAC. By working with the administration and the Department of Energy, I will be meeting with the Secretary this week, going after that high energy cost grant that we were unable to get in 2011. And I have had Hugo Hodge meet with the people at the USDA. I've met with the people at USDA, and we're working very hard to get that high energy cost grant, not loan, grant to the territory, and that can come quickly. The other area is, someone asked about the EDC program, and that needs to be fixed. I have some issues around it, but it needs to be fixed because that is a source of almost immediate revenue into the territory. And the Treasury is poised to do that. I consider us to be in a state of economic disaster. And I'm saying that to every agency. I am the one that brought all of the agencies around the table to address the economic crisis here. And they have been continuing to work with our government and our independent agencies on addressing the issues. This weekend, the Department of Commerce will be here to meet with our not-for-profits and our small businesses with funding that they have available right now that we can access because we have an open disaster declaration that many other states in our region don't have. So we have the ability. I am looking at every possible opportunity to bring funding into this territory now.
Thank you. Our next question to candidate Norma Picard Samuel from Senator Davis.
It's interesting to hear all the monies that will be coming in futuristically. But I want to ask, I don't know if this is an appropriate question for Senator Picard, but I would ask her anyway. The delegate mentioned earlier rum cover over dollars and that we are owed millions of dollars, and she's going after that. And we are owed millions of oil revenues. I want you to respond to that. How are we going to get that? Since she's going after the rum, you go after the oil.
I don't know because today's the first day I heard the delegate say, because in asking her, it's not the right time. All of a sudden, election time, it becomes the right time. Rum. And nothing. It seems like nothing is the right time, Madam Delegate. But apparently, it's the right time now. Anything that is owed to the Virgin Islands, I will be collecting on, okay? I listened to this conversation all morning. We are not asking for handouts. We want a hand up, and we want what is due and owing. America has a debt to this territory that is long past overdue, and it's time that they pay up. And you don't have to make enemies to tell a person or an institution or a government that you owe us something. You owe it to us, pay to us. But speaking to the delegate with all her friends, it was never the right time, but now at election time, it's the right time. She's going to go after it. It has sat there. I'm willing to work with any and everybody. If it's owed to this territory, I am going to ask for it respectfully. We need it, and we need it now. We can't deal with these pie-in-the-sky thing, 50 million coming in 2 years or in a year. People do not have electricity now. What are you going to do now? I am going after any subsidies, anything to help our senior citizens, our handicapped, our people, that can't do better. pay their electric bill because they're responsible for the situation we're in because they sat back and did nothing.
Mr. Can I ask
Yes.
Senator Redfield to follow up on that same line of question I asked?
Listen, it's not a pretty picture. And I would be intellectually dishonest to tell you it was a pretty picture. Whether the delegate gets back into office or I get back into office, you've had two parties that have been odds with each other. You got a term called equestration. I believe that's the term. Basically, what's happened is that because the two parties were not able to meet a consensus, there are going to be automatic cuts that are going to be taking place. Okay? So for me, to you listening out there in the listening audience, say that I've got all the answers. I don't. But however, on this issue, particularly of energy, the delegate is a Democrat. The President of the United States is a Democrat. It was interesting when the President ran on his first go-around, the delegate didn't even support President Obama. It's all about relationships and deciding which is more important, your constituents or, again, commitments that you've made. At any time, the President of the United States would have been able to release her from her commitment. This is a community of color, okay? This is a community where the Democratic Party was in full support of President Obama. Now, I'm a Republican. I don't want to get into an in-house battle, but these are the decisions that you make as a politician that you've got to remember can affect you in the future. And right now, they should be pounding the governor as well as a delegate at the White House and saying, excuse me, we are in a crisis. Many of these issues can be solved by executive order, particularly the issue of Treasury. There are issues where you can say to a department, lay off, or you've got issues where you're dealing with energy. The governor of the Virgin Islands has got to declare an energy emergency, plain and simple. And that emergency has to be transmitted to the White House so you can fast track whatever you need to do on the regulatory basis. If this issue is not addressed, our way of life that we're used to here before or now will never be the same. It is that serious. It's like a case of cancer.
Thank you very much. Next question from Dr. Richardson to our delegate, Donna Christensen.
Good morning again.
Yes, sir.
The Levelized Energy Adjustment Clause, better known to all as LEAC, seems to be the proverbial bull or cow or animal that everyone seems to be attacking, but it is only the tip of the iceberg. There are many other underlying causes. What do you think should be done to help our people here in the Virgin Islands who are in dire straits when hospitals do not pay their bill to WAPA, when governmental agencies and other what we call agencies in terms of this commission, that commission, whatever, do not pay their bill? The police officer who died in the line of service not too long ago, when we look at him and his condition, when it was not able, or we, the Virgin Islands, we were not able to cover his costs, allegedly, and he suffered. What do you see as the real solution or help for people? Please, delegate, help us. We're asking you, whomever the delegate may be, help us, not by platitudes, but by actual giving and moving and helping us along.
Well, there are so many challenges that need to be addressed. You mentioned several of them. One, you talk about LEAC, and we've talked about energy for quite a while. As I said, I have gone to the WAPA board many years ago to suggest that it is time, to say to them it's time to relieve our reliance on fossil fuel. I have brought a committee here to highlight the issue and to begin the process of bringing important agencies together to help us address that issue. And I continue in these very days to look for, well, some people call them subsidies, and I guess that's an appropriate name for them, to be able to help to reduce the cost that our community, our families can no longer bear in terms of power. Now, I have been able, through the Affordable Care Act, and I answered about that in your first question to me, to bring over $40 million to this territory in Medicaid. I attempted to bring every agency of government together that deals with health to try to address, because the funding is there, to help address the issues of our hospitals so that they can pay their bills and continue to provide a high level of service. We came together. Certain important players were not allowed to attend that meeting. We eventually had this assistant secretary say, okay, let me ask the assistant secretary to call a meeting. Still, some of the key players were not in attendance at that meeting, and I don't have control over them. But the funding is there. The responsibility is not that of the delegate alone. We bring the funding, we bring the programs, but they must be used effectively and efficiently to provide the services to the people of this territory, and that is the responsibility of the executive branch and the legislative branch of government.
Thank you very much. We're getting to that point where we'll have to allow our candidates to give us some closing remarks, but before we get there, we got to remind our super listeners out there, we're live on Lucky 13, WSTA, AM 1340 radio. We also want to thank our super sponsors. They include Innovative, Colormax, Furniture Plus, IQ Events, T's Restaurant, MDM Inc., also Choice Wireless, John's Auto, some Global Training, and Jimmy and Sons. Right now, we're going to give each of our... Okay, one more question from each of our panelists.
Are we on? Listen, I want to go to the delegate, and then the other candidates can respond. Crime. You know, there's been a lot of talk about, and we hear it all the time, guns coming into our territory, patrolling our harbors, homeland security, all of that, customs. What have you done to address that issue? Because you know we are open border. I mean, anything just could come in here. What would you say you have done and what you plan to do to maximize our ability to secure our place and cut down on this idea of guns coming in, because nobody manufactures guns here. So tell us about that, delegate. And then the other candidates.
Thank you for that question. You might recall that the resident commissioner of Puerto Rico and myself introduced a bill called, the numbers HR 1550, that calls on the federal law enforcement to provide more support, more resources, more people on the ground to help us fight the high rate of violent crime in our territory. We've followed that up with meeting with the different agencies as well, with the Coast Guard, with Customs and Border Protection. Last week I attended the HIDA meeting here to again stress the need for surveillance, for aircraft, for to bring the Coast Guard cutters within around to do more work around our borders. I've worked with private companies who have had proposals to bring added surveillance. 2 companies, one of which one of my opponents, Senator Picard, worked with, but because of some of the other activities that she was in, they lost their ability to work with the government. So we have worked with other companies that have contacts with national security agencies to help us provide more surveillance. I'm supporting also our National Guard, who's asking for radar. But the bill that we have introduced, I also work on prevention. Prevention is extremely important. I have been working with the then chair, now ranking member of the crime subcommittee on a bill that would help our communities like ours with the resources to put together some planning and to implement some programs to help our young people move away from criminal activity and find meaningful activities to be involved in in our community. And education and jobs are all a part of it as well, and those are issues that we work on.
Time. Same question to to candidate Redfield. Rocky. Each panelist will ask one question.
What was the question? Something to do with?
No, my question was, we have an issue about crime in the territory, and you know our borders are basically unprotected.
Right.
So my question to the delegate was, what has she done to address funding? And there used to be a Coast Guard cutter around here, no longer is here. Homeland Security is here, the airport, and such. So what would be your position, and how do you plan to address that?
Well, first of all, Rocky, we're under siege. And if anybody doesn't think we're under siege, they're brain dead, okay? We're back to one of the answers that the delegate said as far as people conducting meetings and somebody's got to call a meeting. And I'm going back to the issue of cooperation, whether it has to do with crime or whether it has to do with energy. You have to have a good working relationship. I probably could pick up the phone quicker than the delegate could to call the governor of the Virgin Islands if I had to. I'm a Republican, and I've had that relationship with 3 Democratic governors. In other words, we have disagreed on many, many issues, but we were able to come together. That is what's critical. I also have disagreements with the Republican Party nationally. I'm not a Tea Partier. And I'm willing to sit there and say, excuse me, we're not going to go there. Because if the Virgin Islands to begin with was on an even playing field, and some of these most difficult issues that have been left that have not been accomplished, we would be a lot further along. But on this issue, with reference to our borders, we're Americans. There are U.S. foreign policy issues that pertain to this particular issue. The stability of the Virgin Islands is critical for the extension of U.S. foreign policy in this region. I said it earlier. So what you have to do, whoever is president of the United States, at the time that I am elected delegate, I would have to work with that individual. There has to be a sense of urgency. The slamming and, again, the knocking of a door and saying that between, again, this issue of our borders being penetrated by human trafficking, guns, and drugs, as well as this issue of energy, if this is not solved, okay, as I said, what you see the Virgin Islands is today will be no more. Our way of life is going to be completely changed. That sense of urgency has to be put both in the White House as well as on the legislative branches of government of the United States of America.
Time. Thank you. Same question, Mr. Liebert, for Delegate Picard Samuel.
You know, I am still sitting here and don't believe the delegate's response. She brought up the fact that she worked with me with a private company for our border security. This is what I talk about. Forward thinking and having a plan and the ability to work that plan. You know, I don't know what she's talking about, that something else that the company was involved in. The company was General Dynamics. You know, they had a security system to protect our borders. You know, Puerto Rico gets a nice cutter and we get a dinghy, and the delegate is satisfied with that. The reason the program didn't move forward, and a major corporation like that decided they had had enough after investing hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the research necessary on the ground in the Virgin Islands, because the delegate dropped the ball. She had other important things to do and sent us to the governor because she was too busy. It got to the point where, you know, you couldn't even get her staff on the phone to return phone calls, and she sat on the Homeland Security Committee for the period of time about 250 of our citizens were gunned down in the streets, homicide. And now she's telling us because she's on the Energy Committee, she's going to fix our energy problem. Why weren't the problems of guns and drugs flowing into our territory fixed while she sat on Homeland Security? We have to have a plan and work that plan and stop passing the buck while our people suffer.
Thank you very much. Senator Davis, one question. All candidates will respond. 2 minutes.
Well, all don't have to respond to this particular question. They can respond if they so desire. But I've been sitting here now for almost 2 hours, and I hear that and I want the delegate in particular to respond to this. The delegate is never there because she's always traveling. And I wanted to respond as to whether those traveling activities are tied to business. The current relationship between you and the governor and the administration, if it's that bad or if it's improving, it's a workable situation. And of course, immigration issues in the Virgin Islands. Immigration issues are serious in the Virgin Islands in terms of impacting many of our social services. And that may be tied in also to homeland security. And I know many independent nations in relationship to the United States has a quota in terms of the number of immigrants that left into the country. I think this may be controversial. I believe that there ought to be a quota in the Virgin Islands in the number of immigrants that are admitted legally, as well as those who are coming in through the back door that impact the social services of the Virgin Islands. It's something that we really need to give attention to. Your response.
Let me try to answer all of that in the couple of minutes that I have. You know, a lot have been made of my travel. But you know what I hear most from the people of this territory is, how are you able to be everywhere in this territory? Because we work from Monday to Thursday or Tuesday to Friday, and I am home. The travel that has been referred to throughout this campaign has been travel where I have been asked to come and speak because of my expertise generally on healthcare, often invited by companies where Virgin Islanders are working to receive awards, or some of them for graduations. But my travel has been very much curtailed because there's always something that I find that is more important for me to attend at home. Those travels are one night or one day to speak and back again. So I am always present at my job, and when we're not working, I am here in the territory and often in my office seeing constituents. You know, I think the main thing that the governors and I have disagreed on is the CFO. My job is to represent the people of this territory. There are times when the governors and I will agree. There are times when we will disagree. But that does not interfere with my ability to work with them, their lobbyists, their attorneys, on behalf of the people of the territory. I meet with every governor at the beginning of every year to lay out my plans and to hear his so that we can develop a common agenda. We're looking at a time when immigration is a major issue even across the country. And I anticipate that with the vote of the people of this territory, I'll be able to go back and work with President Obama and my colleagues to address comprehensive immigration reform where we can address some of those issues.
Thank you. A similar question to candidate Redfield?
Yes, to all three.
There is always a tension in politics. Politics is not a church. But we also have to realize that there are times when you pick a particular issue, and if you find that winning the issue, in other words, you can win the battle and lose the war. And that's political acuity. There are many times when I was in the Senate where I would back off because I knew I had something more important that I had to deal with. And this has to do with the way you think. A politician evolves, or is supposed to evolve. Any issue is a moving target. Just what you said, Liston, we're talking about the issue of immigration. This is a bigger issue than just the Virgin Islands. Unfortunately, we get in the middle of what's going on in Washington, and it goes beyond us. When we are prepared to deal with the issue of self-determination as a territory, a lot of these issues are handled by status. You either can have a compact of federal relations or whatever, but many of the things that are hindering us at this point, look at just the drafting of the Constitution. We're trying to define ourselves as a people. At this particular point, we have to follow the United States Constitution, and that's what I support. I support us getting closer to the United States. At the same time, when you're dealing with Washington, you can't be putting your hand out and tugging on Uncle Sam's beard at the same time. You've got to develop a relationship where there's balance of your insular issues here as well as national issues. And this takes quite a bit of being able to do the political hopscotch. And this is something that I've been able to do here locally. And listen, for somebody like myself, to be in the legislature for 6 terms, you've got to learn darn quick. And in Washington, I feel comfortable in that environment. I'm close to Boehner, who's the Speaker of the House. I've interviewed him on my radio talk show. I deal with all of these individuals up there on a first-name basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Candidate Norma Picard Samuel.
Yes. You know, what I'm wondering now is, with all of these connections and friends, why? Why is the Virgin Islands in such a disastrous mode? Why? If you have friends and they can help, what, you have to be elected to public office to call them up and ask for help? I was in the private sector when I got my friends together to come up with a plan to take care of the LEAC and ease the burden on this community. I was in the private sector when I gathered a company like General Dynamics and the experts to come here to the territory on their dime to come up with a plan to secure our borders. I don't think you have to be elected to public office. So I'm going to say, like one of the other candidates, imagine if I could have done that in the private sector. What could I do if I was given the power and the authority of the delegate's position in Washington? Our troubles would be over. We wouldn't have people today going to bed with their children hungry and no electricity, because we are in Washington living the high life and not paying attention to details. That's the problem here. We do not pay attention to details. If it's too hard, we put it off. We just have to change the way we have been doing business. We have to change our mindset. And we can't say it's not my job. Yes, it is. It is the delegate's job. You ask for that position. If you can help, you do whatever is necessary to bring relief.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to cease with the questions. We're going to give each of our candidates, starting with our delegate, 3-minute wrap-up time, and we start with our delegate.
Thank you, and again, let me thank WSTA and all of your sponsors for the opportunity to be here this morning. Thank the panel for their very thoughtful and insightful questions. I hope that the people of the territory recognize that in all of the responses, that I am the only one that has really answered the questions with specifics. We've heard a lot of platitudes. We've heard a lot of attacks. We've heard a litany of our problems. But we really have not heard much in the way of solutions. And, you know, for all of the things that Senator Picard said she's been working on with the private sector, I have not heard or seen any results. And that's what we're concerned about, results. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. They're not entitled to their own facts. The facts are that in my 16 years, I have been an extraordinarily effective delegate to Congress. The facts are that I have brought over $100 million to this territory in that time. The facts are that I have passed many pieces of legislation, more than many of my colleagues who've been in Congress for the same amount of time. The vice presidential candidate has passed 2 pieces of legislation in his 14 years. I've passed about 13 in my 16. So the facts are, the trips that have been taken have helped to build influence and support for the work I do on behalf of the territory. And I think the people of the territory are proud that they have a delegate that corporations and universities and organizations call on to come and be a speaker at their events. The facts are that I have worked with WAPA, that I have brought experts both in the private and the public sector to bear on our energy issues, and that I continue to work daily, and my staff continues to work daily to help to address the current crisis and to bring the kind of funding that can lower our LEAC and relieve the burden on our people. Facts are, I am extremely unhappy with the increase in the insurance premiums. And I am working with the Secretary and preparing to introduce legislation that I hope I can stick into some kind of appropriation bill to address that, to help to address that issue. The facts are that the people of the territory, because they tell me at every turn, are very happy and satisfied with the work that I have been doing, because it has been effective, it has been productive. Facts are, the House of Representatives runs on seniority. I have the seniority. I have the committee assignment. I have the relationships on both sides of the aisle and both sides of the Capitol to provide this territory with the representation they need and deserve. I ask for your vote on November 6th. I am number 2 on the ballot, Donna Christensen, for tested, trusted, and true leadership.
Thank you very much. Candidate Harlan Redfield, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. First of all, the panelists, excellent questions, and it shows clearly your understanding of the issues. It is my hope that I have reflected my political way of thinking. I've always said in politics, you've got to look to the temperament of the politician more importantly than even the academics of the process. We learn that as we evolved. But when you apply some of these principles and you are trying to solve a problem, you have to have the right temperament to be able to deal with other people. When you have a narrow focus, whatever it is, whether you're in politics or in the business sector, it doesn't serve you well. Our responsibility, and my responsibility as delegate to Congress, will be to be able to bridge that gap. My experience in the legislature really has taught me that. Only one other panelist has a little experience in the legislature. I got 6 terms. I know what it's like to be in the trenches and know what it's like to be able to deal with insular issues and how difficult they are. But in the same respect, I've made it my responsibility as National Committee Man of the Republican Party, which I serve in a position of about the 9th most senior, to be able to deal with my own party. A good example of that was Michael Steele, who again was the first African-American national chairman. And it was the United States Virgin Islands with the other territories that came together. We formed an island caucus and we were able to succeed. Well, some of my friends that looked like me were arguing over somebody else. I got an African-American in there. And I want to remind my colleagues up in Washington, particularly, with the Virgin Islands being African-American, Puerto Rico being Hispanic-American, and out on the other side of the globe, Asian-American. I will not let anybody forget that the folks in these territories have given their lives to defend this nation. That will be my overall strategy. Whatever issue I'm dealing with, whether it's SSI, lifting of the cap of Medicaid, whether we're talking about the rum cover over, whatever it is, these are things that we're entitled to as Americans, okay? All I want is parity. And I'm sick and tired of being up there having to beg, or us begging for something that we're already entitled to. Now that may sound a little bit tough, doesn't it? Well, we're in tough times in the Virgin Islands and we don't have any options anymore. Those that are elected to public office have got to be able to take these risks. The difference between being a politician and a statesman is one that's able to tackle these problems and solve them. I've always said, don't interpret my politeness as weakness, because it never was weakness. So to each and every one of you out there, we can overcome these problems. We've solved them in the past. God bless the United States Virgin Islands, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you very much. Candidate Norma Picard Samuel.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Lucky 13 for inviting us and having this forum, and to the panelists, former Senator Rocky Liebert and Senator Liston Davis, and to the educator, and to everyone listening. It was very interesting. You know, like I said, we have to change the way that we do business in Washington. Those are the facts. The facts are our people, a lot of them, don't have electricity. The fact is, I did not have the power and the authority of a congressional office to bring relief when I proposed natural gas. The fact is, everyone, and I'm happy, are coming around to my way of thinking. 5 years late, but you're there. Those are the facts. The facts are, other territories and other places in the world are benefiting from a military application that was turned into a commercial application to secure borders because of my hard work and the territory. The fact is, the territory is not benefiting from it because our present congressperson did not see the benefit then, and she was on the Homeland Security Committee. The fact is, we need to chart a new course to Washington. Business as usual and this one-size-fits-all mentality that we have can't work anymore. The fact is, I will not sit here and say the delegate has not done anything in Washington, but I will tell you, it is just way too little for the suffering that we have found ourselves in. The fact is, the delegate is going to tell us how important her committee assignments are because she wants to remain relevant. The fact is, the Virgin Islands can no longer afford that. As much as we may like her, we have to change our way of doing business. And the fact is, a lot of people that I do business with and I work with, and I can pick up the phone and call, most are Republicans and some are Democrats. The fact is, I witnessed firsthand our delegate walk out of Bush's inauguration with the Black Caucus with a black ribbon. I was sitting in her office and I could not understand her position then. The Virgin Islands as a territory cannot afford this type of attitude. We have to be able to work with everyone. And the fact is, the delegate is your friend when it's convenient, and she's a good Democrat when it's convenient, and then when it's not, she's no longer your friend.
Thank you very much.
The fact is, we have to move on.
Thank you very much. We want to thank all our super guest candidates for delegate to Congress, our present delegate. Delegate Donna Christensen, thank you very much for being present. We also want to thank our candidate, Mr. Howland Redfield. Thank you very much.
Bet, thank you.
And we want to thank candidate Norma Picard Samuel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our main purpose is to bring the candidates to our listeners and viewers so they can make an informed choice and a decision for this election. VI Decision 2012, presented by PEO Production in conjunction with WSTA Radio. Our super sponsors include Innovative, ColorMax, Furniture Plus, IQ Events, T's Restaurant, MDM Inc., Choice, Wireless, and to all, we also want to say John's Auto Center, Global Training, Enterprise, Jimmy and Sons. In the second half, we'll be taking a 30-minute break. In the next half, in the next segment, we have candidates for the St. Thomas, St. John District. They would include, starting at 12:30 sharp, candidate Shirley Sadler, candidate Lawrence Olive, candidate Joseph Gums, candidate Justin Harrigan, candidate Cecilia Milliner Emmanuel, and possibly candidate Kent Bernier. We want to thank you again on behalf of WSTA Radio. Thanks to our viewers, our listeners, and we'll be back in 30 minutes with our St. Thomas St. John district senators. Thank you very much, everyone.
Very good, Popo. Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness gracious. Ah. Very well. Dr. Peter. Yes,
It worked out. Peter, what do you think? I think it went well.
I think so too.
It's the second annual I Am Beautiful Natural Hair Workshop and Expo presented by Miss Naturalista and the Department of Tourism. This hair event will be sizzling. There'll be informative workshops, hair demonstrations, and scalp analysis, hair tips for relaxed and natural beauties, live henna art, natural hair products, and presentations from leaders in the natural hair world, including natural hair care celebrity Kim Coles from Living Single, Miss Felicia Leatherwood, and Dr. Carrie Williams, hair loss expert Dr. Yates, brand presentations by Ali K Naturals, curls and hair thickener. Also YouTube bloggers Black Onyx 77, Cassidy, and Shari J. Saturday, October 27th at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center, St. Thomas, and Sunday, October 28th at the St. George's Botanical Garden, St. Croix. Tickets are $15 in advance at Eccentric Shoe Boutique, Urban Threads, Share Ecstasy, Global Wholesale, and Stride Right St. Thomas. On St. Croix, Natural Expressions, Urban Threads, Eccentric Shoe Boutique, and Hair Unlimited. Sponsored by Scotiabank and Innovative Wireless. It's the second annual I Am Beautiful Natural Hair Workshop and Expo presented by Miss Naturalista and the Department of Tourism. This hair event will be sizzling. There'll be informative workshops, hair demonstrations, and scalp analysis, hair tips for relaxed and natural beauties, live henna art, natural hair products, and presentations from leaders in the natural hair world, including natural hair care celebrity Kim Coles from Living Single, Miss Felicia Leatherwood, and Dr. Carrie Williams, hair loss expert Dr. Yates, brand presentations by Ali K Naturals, curls and hair thickener. Also YouTube bloggers Black Onyx 77, Cassidy, and Shari J. Saturday, October 27th at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center, St. Thomas, and Sunday, October 28th at the St. George's Botanical Garden, St. Croix. Tickets are $15 in advance at Eccentric Shoe Boutique, Urban Threads, Share Ecstasy, Global Wholesale, and Stride Right St. Thomas. On St. Croix, Natural Expressions, Urban Threads, Eccentric Shoe Boutique, and Hair Unlimited. Sponsored by Scotiabank and Innovative Wireless. It's the second annual I Am Beautiful. Chica, what's up? What you doing with that bird's nest on your head?
Bad hair day every day. Girl, my edges are gone, itchy scalp, psoriasis, thinning scalp, breakage, not to mention my hair has flakes and it is so dry. And my daughter, that's another story.
Chica, you need to come with me to the second annual I Am Beautiful Natural Hair Care and Workshop Expo. Come prepared to see informational workshops by Dr. Carrie Williams, hair loss experts Dr. Yates, natural hairstylist Felicia Leatherwood, and popular YouTube vloggers Cassidy, Blaconic77, and Shari J with demonstrations. Girl, they even have celebrity Kim Coles from Living Single. Yeah? Yes, there'll be lots of information for everybody on natural hair products, vendors, hair crafts, and much more.
So when and where?
It happens Saturday, October 27th on St. Thomas at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center, and Sunday, October 28th on St. Croix at St. George's Botanical Gardens. Doors open 3 p.m. on both islands. Tickets are $15 in advance.
Well, Chica, let's go.
Chica, what's up? What you
Furniture Inn is having a big red tag sale on all furniture and appliances. Early bird special, living room sets, dining room sets, bedroom sets, accessories for every room in the house, china cabinets, wall units, lamps, you name it, they have it. Everything's on sale. Mattresses, end tables, coffee tables. Furniture Inn, located in Lockhart Garden Shopping Mall, next to Kmart. Call 774-2583 and take advantage of Furniture Inn's Red Tag Early Bird Specials. Furniture Inn is having a big red tag sale on all furniture and appliances. Early bird special, living room sets, dining room sets, bedroom sets, accessories for every room in the house, china cabinets, wall units, lamps, you name it, they have it. Everything's on sale. Mattresses, end tables, coffee tables. Furniture Inn, located in Lockhart Garden Shopping Mall, next to Kmart. Call 774-2583 and take advantage of Furniture Inn's Red Tag Early Bird Specials. Furniture Inn is having a big red tag sale on all furniture and appliances. Early bird special, living room sets, dining room sets, bedroom sets, accessories for every room in the house, china cabinets, wall units, lamps, you name it, they have it. Everything's on sale. Mattresses, end tables, coffee tables. Furniture Inn, located in Lockhart Garden Shopping Mall, next to Kmart. Call 774-2583 and take advantage of Furniture Inn's Red Tag Early Bird Specials.
2012 we no rap with home phone. You see we are cut card, everything wireless. When we are come out and we roll out, it's choice wireless.
No hesitation, choice make it wireless, real innovation. Cut card, save and join the choice nation. Choice keep your wireless everywhere you're flexing, unlimited text save. No contracts, keep your same phone number, same contacts. Home phone is no longer an answer. The mobile phone with a 3 month service, so don't get nervous. So make that choice, yeah. Cut the card. Get a new smartphone, power up with choice, yeah. Virgin Islands, get your mobile device, go and make that choice, yeah. Cut the card, no limits, so come power up with choice, yeah. Make the card, no contracts, keep your freedom with choice, yeah.
Home phones are no longer longer innovative. Transfer your number to Choice Wireless and get a free cell phone and a free month of service. No contracts, no limit. Basically, cut the cord and save. Wally, oh. Wally, oh. You see, we are cut card, everything wireless. When we are come out and we roll out, it's Choice Wireless.
No hesitation, Choice make it wireless, real innovation. Cut can save and join the Choice Nation. Choice keep your wireless everywhere you're flexing, unlimited text sale. No contracts, keep your same phone number, same contacts. Home phone is no longer an answer. The mobile phone with a free month service, so don't get nervous. So make that choice, yeah. Cut the card, get a new smartphone, power up with Choice, yeah. Virgin Islands, get your mobile device, go and make that choice, yeah. Cut the card, no limits, so come power up with Choice, yeah. Make the card, no contracts, keep your freedom with Choice, yeah.
Home phones are no longer innovative. Transfer your number to Choice Wireless and get a free cell phone and a free month of service. No contracts, no limit. Basically, cut the cord and save. Wally, oh. Wally, oh.
Finally, it happened. Finally, it happened. Salem declares a store-wide sale. Every sofa, every love seat, chair, cocktail, and... Finally, it happened. Finally, it happened. Salem declares a store-wide sale. Every sofa, every love seat, chair, cocktail, and tables up to 50% off their regular price. Wow-wee! All mattresses, name brands like Sealy Posturepedic, Certa Perfect Sleeper, Semble, Comfortee, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, all drastically reduced up to 50% off their regular price. Salem says no reasonable offer will be refused. Everything must go. Mattresses, twin size only $99. Full size $149. Queen size $169. And listen to this. A 12-inch memory foam Sleep Well Live Long queen size mattress for only $649. Wow, that's unbeatable. For all of your furniture, mattress, and appliance needs, be sure to check out Furniture Plus. They're located right across from Charlotte Amalia High School. And don't forget to tell Salem he can't sing a lick. Be prepared this hurricane season and make sure you always have a backup plan. Get a wireless phone from Innovate.